Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Bongani. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new, and don't forget to like the videos, and don't forget to also share to others. And last but not least, don't forget to comment down below if there's some questions or some clarity that you need. Okay, today guys, we are going to discuss what we call the human eye, which is a very interesting organ of our body, or the organ of vision or organ of sight. Now, first of all, let's start by looking at our lesson plan, or what we're going to discuss. Today, we are going to discuss the structure of the human eye. We're going to look at how the eye looks like, okay? What the eye consists of, the parts of the eye and its different functions. And also we're going to look at accommodation. We're going to look at pupillary mechanism or pupil reflex. And also we're going to look at the visual defects, which consist of long and short sightedness, also astigmatism and cataracts. And last but not least, we are going to look at binocular and stereoscopic vision. Now, we're going to start by looking at the front view, or the front part of the eye. The part of the eye that we usually see when we're looking at each other, okay? So what is important here for you to know is this part here, the blue part, this blue part, which is the color of the eye, or which determines the color of your eye. So this blue part is what we call the iris. And then at the center of the eye, there's an opening, this here, the small opening, which we call the pupil. And then we have got the ball, or the whitish part of your eye. Yes, the whitish part of your eye, the one that you look at, or the one that you see as well when you look at someone's eye, is what we call the sclera. These are the most important parts that you're supposed to know. And of course, your eyelid, you know, and your eyelashes, I believe you know. Now, let us look at the cross-section of the eye. There's so many parts of the eye that you're supposed to know, but they're not that hard. It's not actually a big deal for you to know them. They're very simple. You just need to know where each structure is situated or located. Now, there's the front part of the eye here, which is curved. This part of the eye is what we call the cornea. So this part of the eye is usually transparent. Normally, it's supposed to be transparent. Okay? And then behind the cornea, or the transparent part, we have a chamber, this space here behind it. So this space behind this is what we call the anterior chamber, which it contains a watery fluid, which we call the aqueous humor. Okay, in this very chamber, we get the iris, which I've showed you guys before. It was blue in the front view of the eye. So now it's green here. So this part is what we call the iris. It is what determines the color of your eye. It's the one that's brown in others and it's blue in other people, okay? And then in between here, these two structures, the iris basically, at the center here, we get what we call the pupil, which is a small opening at the center, which I've showed you in our previous front view. And then right behind the iris, we have what we call the lens, which is also a very important part of our eye. And then our lens, as you can see, is attached to some purple parts here. These purple parts is what we call the suspensory ligaments, which they play a very pivotal role as well. And then these suspensory ligaments, they are attached to this part here, which is what we call the ciliary body. Others, they call it the ciliary muscle. Okay? And then we see the whitish part again, which we saw in our front view, this part here, all the way, the outermost part all the way, which connects to the cornea here in front. So this is what we call the sclera, okay? And then right below the sclera, we have another layer or another part of the eye, which we call the choroid. Right below the choroid, we see the yellow part here now. That layer is what we call the retina, okay? And then on the retina, we have got the yellow spot, which is a very important part of an eye or your retina. And also, inside your eye, there's a big space, which is behind your lens, okay? This space is what we call the posterior chamber. So the posterior chamber, what it does, it contains another jelly-like substance, which is very important as well, which we call the vitreous humor, okay? And then also we've got the blind spot below the yellow spot. And then we have got the optic nerve, okay? Right behind the yellow spot, which is also another very important part of your eye. Now, let us continue and look at the three layers of your eye. Now, I want us to go back to the eye and look at all the three layers. But before we go back to the eye, I want to mention to you that these layers, there are three. We've got the outermost layer or the external layer. We've got the middle layer, and then we've got the innermost layer or the internal layer. Now, let us go back to our cross section and look at each layer. Okay, each layer does not consist of one part, okay? There's only one layer that consists of one part. But the first two layers, the external or the outermost layer and the middle layer, they contain several parts, okay? More than one part. Okay, now, look at the structure of the eye. The outermost layer, which is the one that surrounds the eye outside. Okay, now, here in front or anteriorly or in front, in simple terms, we have got a very important structure, which I told you about, and I said it's transparent, is what we call the cornea. And then which is in continuation with the sclera here. So the external layer or the outermost layer, it consists of two parts, the cornea and the sclera. Now let us look at the middle layer or the layer in the middle. Okay, the layer in the middle, it consists of your iris, right? And then it consists of your ciliary body, which is in continuation with your choroid, which is below the sclera. That is what we call the middle layer. So the middle layer is formed by three structures: your iris, your ciliary body or ciliary muscles, and the choroid. And then right below your choroid, we have got the innermost layer or the internal layer, which is what we call the retina. Okay, now let us continue and look at the functions of each part of the eye. Now we'll start with the transparent layer or what we call the cornea. Okay, now the cornea is transparent, first of all. So because it's transparent, therefore it's going to allow what? The light to pass through it. And it also bends the light that comes inside the eye. Okay, so create what? An image on the retina. Okay, now the pupil. The pupil, as I've said to you, is the small opening at the center of your eye, right? So what it does, it allows light as well. It's an opening. It allows light to pass through and enter into the eye. And then the iris, the one that determines your color, remember, in others is blue, in others is brown. So what it does, it controls the amount of light that enters into your eye through what we call the pupillary mechanism, which we're going to discuss later, okay? And then we've got the lens. The lens is behind your iris, right? And it's attached to, remember those purple parts, the suspensory ligaments, right? So it also allows the light to pass through, and it also bends the light. and also it changes its shape, right, for distant and near vision. We're going to discuss that. That is what we call accommodation. We're going to discuss that in our lesson today. Now, let us look at the suspensory ligament. Remember, the suspensory ligament, they are attached to the lens. And then because they're attached to the lens, therefore they keep the lens in shape, or they hold the lens in shape during what we call accommodation, which we're just going to talk about, okay? And then we have got the ciliary body, right? The ciliary body, or the ciliary muscles, these muscles, they contract or they relax in order to change the tension on the suspensory ligaments, right? So that the shape of the lens is changed during accommodation, which we're going to discuss, all right? And then number 7, we've got the sclera, the tough white outer coat. Is the one that I showed you as well. Remember, it's the white part of the eye. So this white part of the eye, because it's also what? It is also the outermost layer. Remember, it's one of the parts of the outermost layer. So what it does, it protects the eye against damage. Oh, as well, I forgot to mention also another function of the cornea. Remember, the cornea is also the external part of the eye, or it forms part of the external layer of the eye. So it also protects the eye from the outside environment, from particles, foreign particles, from getting into the eye. And also the sclera, it maintains the shape of your eye, or the eyeball. Okay, now let us look at the retina. Remember, the retina is the innermost layer, or the internal layer. So this layer, it contains light-sensitive receptor cells, right? Which we call photoreceptors. So these photoreceptors are what we call the rods and the cones, right? So the retina, what it does, it converts the light into electrical impulses, right? Okay, and then remember, I said this part consists of the photoreceptors, right? Which are your rods and your cones. So your rods are sensitive to dim light. Hence, they will help you to differentiate between black and white. And then the cones, they are sensitive to bright light. And hence, they will help you to distinguish between different colors, your green, your yellow, your purple, your indigo, and so forth. And then we've got the choroid, the middle layer, remember. Okay, the choroid, it is a dark colored layer. It contains blood vessels, or it is rich in blood vessels, and it contains what we call a pigment or pigments. So what does the choroid do? Because it contains the pigment, so that pigment, it allows, for the absorption of light, to prevent the reflection of the light. It absorbs the light in order for it not to be reflected back, right? And then, as I've said, also it contains, or it is rich in blood vessels. So blood vessels, they supply what? Oxygen and nutrients, where it supplies those to the cells of the retina. It supplies them to the light sensitive receptor cells of the retina, your rod and your cones, right? And then remember, we've got the aqueous humor, which is in the anterior chamber, behind or in between, right, your lens and your cornea. So that part, it is watery. As I've said, it is a watery fluid which is found between the cornea and the lens. And then what it does, it maintains the shape of the cornea. It ensures that the shape of the cornea is not changed. It stays as curved as it is normally, right? And then also it plays a small role in the refraction of the light that comes into the eye. Refraction means bending. It helps bend the light that comes into the eye. Now, number 11, we have got the ventral humor, which is found within your posterior chamber, which is between or behind your lens, right? Now, this is a gel-like substance, as I've told you, it's found behind your lens. What it does, it maintains the shape of the eyeball. It makes sure that your eye remains like a ball. It does not change, right? It remains a ball. And then also, it also plays a small role in the refraction of the light that comes into your eye, right? And then we've got the yellow spot. Remember, the yellow spot is a part of what? It's there, that part in your, on your retina, sorry, on your retina. And then this part, it has got a lot of number of cones, which are light sensitive cells. They're sensitive to bright light, remember. So this is the area that offers the clearest image, the clearest image. And then right below the yellow spot, I showed you, we have got the blind spot. Now, this blind spot is below the yellow spot, yes. And then it contains no rods, it contains no cones, meaning it does not contain any photoreceptors or any light sensitive receptor cells, right? Hence, you won't be able to see. If an image falls there on your blind spot, you won't be able to see that image, okay? And then it is in an area where the optic nerve leaves the eye. So you've seen there, it is connected to an optic nerve, which is a very important nerve. So what is the function of the blind spot? The blind spot, okay, what is important for you to know is that it is the area of no vision there. And also it is the part of an eye that, you know, supplies what? Oxygen and nutrients, right, to the eye. And also impulses are transmitted to the cerebellum for interpretation through what? The optic nerve, which is attached to the blind spot. Now, we haven't talked about what? The optic nerve. Sorry, guys, I haven't mentioned or included optic nerve in my slides, but this is a very important part of an eye. So the optic nerve, what it does, it transmits those impulses from the retina into the brain for interpretation, so that your brain tells you what object you're seeing, whether you're seeing a flower, whether you're seeing a car passing by, and so forth. Now, let us look at accommodation. Remember, we talked about accommodation earlier, and I told you that we're going to come to accommodation and discuss what accommodation is. So in simple terms, accommodation, it is the ability of your eyes to change or adjust the shape of the lens to make sure or to ensure that a person sees objects clearly, whether the object is near or far. So what happens here is your lens will adjust or will change into certain shapes in order for you to see objects that are far and objects that are close. Meaning that if an object is far, your lens change so that you're able to see the object clearly. And if it's near, the lens also will change its shape so that you see that object that is near very clear. Okay, now let us look at the near vision one, meaning the distance between you, the viewer, and the object is about 6 meters apart, the distance between those two. So remember, your lens is attached to your suspensory ligaments, which are attached to your ciliary body or your ciliary muscles. So what happens now? For near vision, what happens is your ciliary muscles will contract. And as they contract, what happens? Your suspensory ligaments will slacken or will loosen up, will become looser. They will become loose. And then the tension on the lens, hence, is going to be decreased. And once the tension on the lens is decreased, they become more convex or bulgy, or they become more thicker. Yes, they become more thick. I'll show you a picture. And then this causes the light rays to bend even more, and then creating what? A clearer image on your retina. Right. And then for distant vision is the opposite of the near vision. Now, the distance between you and the object is now more than 6 meters away. It's far away, maybe 10 meters away from you. Now your lens will change to a certain shape to accommodate that accommodation, right? So now what happens is the ciliary muscles now, they won't contract, but they will relax. And as they relax, what do? They will tighten the suspensory ligaments, or the suspensory ligaments, sorry, they'll become taut. And then as they become taut, the tension on the lens is increased, or the pulling force on the lens is increased. Hence, your lens will become less convex, or they become flatter or thinner. And then this causes the light rays to bend less. And then as they bend less, what happens? A clear image is focused or is created on your retina so that you're able to see the object clearly. Okay, let us look at what I've been talking about. Now, look, for near vision, here, near vision, look what happens. Your ciliary muscles, they contract. And then as they contract, your suspensory ligaments, they slacken or they loosen, right? And then as they loosen, look, the lens, they become more convex, or they become bulgy, or it becomes thicker in size, or bigger. I don't know, but thicker. Let's say thicker. Okay, thicker is the right word as well. But say convex, right? They become more convex. And then let us look at for distant vision. I said it's going to be the opposite of the other. What happens is now the ciliary muscles will relax, and as they relax, the suspensory ligament, they become taut. They tighten. And then the tension on the lens becomes more, or is increased. Hence, the lens will become less convex, and they become thinner. You see? Okay, now let us move to pupillary mechanism. Okay, what is pupillary mechanism? In simple terms, okay, as well, remember pupillary mechanism is also called the pupil reflex. So remember that as well, because some examiners can actually prefer to use pupil reflex instead of pupillary mechanism. But usually they use pupillary mechanism. And then if you get a kind examiner, they might put both, which is good. Okay, now, the pupillary mechanism, it is the process by which the diameter of the pupil is changed. It's either increased or decreased. Why? So that we control the amount of light that enters the eye. Remember, the pupil is that small opening at the center of the eye, which is formed by your iris, right? So what happens is your iris is the one that actually controls the amount of light that enters through the pupil, and then it contains, or it has got circular and radial muscles which act antagonistically, meaning these muscles, they oppose each other. If the other one relaxes, the other one will contract. That's what it means. They oppose each other. They act against each other, right? To change the diameter of the pupil. Now, remember pupillary mechanism. This one is when your pupil, the diameter of the pupil is changed, either decreased or increased, so that not a lot of light gets into your eye. For instance, in very bright conditions, or when I bring a light closer to your eye, your pupil, the diameter of the pupil will be decreased, because we're trying to control the amount of light that gets into your eye. Not any amount of light can actually get into your eye. A specific amount is supposed to get into your eye. So to control the amount or the light intensity, we need pupillary mechanism. Now, there are two conditions. We've got bright light conditions and dim light conditions. So the diameter of the pupil changes during those conditions. It's either if you're in a bright condition or in a dim condition. Now, let's say like you're in a very light or very bright condition, right? What happens is your radial muscles, they will cause the iris to relax, right? It relaxes. And then as it relaxes, the circular muscles of the iris will contract, right? And then as they contract, the pupil will constrict, or it will get smaller. It gets smaller, meaning the diameter is decreased. Hence, the amount of light that enters the eye is going to be decreased or reduced. Right. And then for dim light is always the opposite. Even here, you just know one part, the other part is the opposite of the other part. So for dim light, what happens is the radial muscle will cause the iris to contract. And then the circular muscles of the iris will relax. And then the pupil, it becomes wider. It becomes wide, or it gets like it widens or gets bigger, meaning the diameter is now big or increased. And then hence the light that is entering the eye is going to be increased so that you see properly. Now, I want us to look at this diagram here. It explains what I've been talking about. Look, you can see the radial muscles and you can see the circular muscles, right? So for bright light or in bright light conditions, what happens is the radial muscles of the iris will relax, right? And as they relax, the circular muscles, they contract, right? And as they contract, what happens? The pupil is constricted, or the pupil constricts, meaning the diameter becomes smaller. Hence, the amount of light that enters is going to be not a lot, is going to be reduced or decreased. Now, for dim light, this side. Now, what happens is your radial muscles, they do what? They contract. As they contract, the circular muscles will relax. As the circular muscles relax, look at the diameter of the pupil is increased. It becomes wider. So the pupil widens to allow more light to enter the eye for you to be able to see the object. Right. That is it. Okay, guys, let us look at the eye defects. We have got 4 of them, but we're going to start with what we call myopia, or short-sightedness, which is also called nearsightedness. Okay, what is short-sightedness, or what is myopia? So myopia, it occurs when a person has the ability to see an object that is nearby, but cannot see an object that is far away clearly. So what happens here, or what's the nature of the defect? So what happens is that when looking at a distant objects, the light rays focus in front of the retina instead of them focusing on the retina. I'll show you a diagram. Causing blurred vision, meaning the person is not able to see like objects or structures that are far away from him or her properly, like they become blurry or blurred vision, you know? So this defect can be caused by, you know, having an eyeball that is too long. In other words, it's too big. I'll show you. It's too big, or it can be caused because of the cornea is too curved, you know, or it can also be caused by maybe the inability of the lens to become less convex, you know. And then the treatment for this kind of condition is glasses with concave lenses. Okay, let us look at the diagram to make things easier, because the diagram makes things easier. Look at this. Okay, normally your light rays or the image is supposed to fall on the retina, but in myopia it falls right in front of the retina here. Hence you're gonna have blurred vision. Why is this so? Okay, one of the major causes, it is because your eyeball is too big than the normal one. And once it's too big, the eyeball, it makes the distance between the lens and the retina more longer. Hence, the image falls in front of the retina because the distance is too long. And then the image does not reach the retina. It falls right in front of the retina. So the treatment for that is what? Concave lens, you know. So what happens, the light rays now, if your glasses have got concave lenses, will be refracted outwards to fall on the retina. You see, outward here, and then hence they're able to fall on your retina. And then let us look at long-sightedness. Others call it farsightedness, which is also known as hypermetropia, the scientific term. Know the scientific terms, guys, they're very important. Okay, now for long-sightedness, what happens is, it is when a person has the ability, now is the opposite of myopia. You are able to see a distant object or a faraway object, but you are not able to see a nearby or a close object clearly. Why? Or what is the nature of the defect? It is because now, when looking at a nearby object, the light rays, they focus behind the retina this time, not in front of the retina. And remember, normally the image is supposed to fall on the retina, not in front, not behind. But for hypermetropia, it falls behind, hence blurred vision. What can cause this condition or this defect? It is caused by an eyeball that is too short, or it's too small, or it's too rounded, you know. So what happens, I'll explain. And then also it can be caused by a cornea that is not kept enough as well. And then also it is caused by an inability of the lens to become more convex. And then the treatment for this condition or for this defect, we give the patient glasses with convex lenses. Okay, let me show you a diagram, because the diagram makes it easier for people to understand. Look, normally, remember, the image is supposed to fall on the retina, not in front, not behind. So for for long-sightedness or hypermetropia, what happens is the image falls behind the retina. Why? Because it is too rounded, it is too small, meaning the distance between the retina and the lens is smaller than normal. Hence, now the image will travel far, and then it goes behind the retina, causing you to have a blurred vision. So the treatment for it, you give convex lenses. It's the opposite of myopia. Here you give convex lenses. So what happens now, the light rays, they become refracted or bent inwards so that they are able to fall on the retina to create an image so that you're able to see. Okay, another condition that is important to know is what we call astigmatism. Okay, astigmatism, it is when the cornea, remember the cornea, the transparent part of the eye in front there, which forms the part of the external layer, remember. So what happens is the cornea is not properly rounded or equally rounded or curved the way it's supposed to be in all direction as it's supposed to be normally. So the eye is shaped more like a rugby ball, not like a football. It's supposed to be rounded like a ball, a football, but it's more pointy or rounded like a rugby ball. I'll show you the images. So with an astigmatic cornea, the light entering the eye, is not focused evenly on the retina. Hence, you're going to have blurred vision, and you're also going to have headaches, and then also you're going to squint whenever you look at objects in front of you. What is squinting? Squinting, it is when your eyes are partially closed, or when you intentionally partially close your eyes in an attempt to see more clearly. You know, squinting is also a sign that someone might have astigmatism, okay? And then the treatment for astigmatism, we can give the patient a prescription of special lenses. Now we don't use concave and convex one. They've got special lenses, which they will fix the defect. Also contact lenses as well, and also laser therapy. You know, it's also a recommended treatment or therapy for astigmatism. And then I want to show you the image now. What happens in astigmatism? Normally, you see the cornea is supposed to be rounded like, you know, a football. But look, an astigmatic cornea, it becomes more pointy here in front, like a rugby ball. Hence, now what happens is the the image or the light rays, they will fall in multiple areas. They won't fall on the retina. They will fall in front and also behind. Hence, the person will have blurred vision. Okay, now let us look at cataracts. What are cataracts? Okay, cataracts, they develop when the lens become cloudy. In simple terms, cataract is when you have a cloudy lens. This stops the light from entering the eye. Why? Because the lens is cloudy. So it stops the light from entering. It's supposed to enter, but because it's cloudy, so the light is not able to enter properly, right? And then this one also, cataracts develop slowly, and it increases in size over time as well. And cataracts, actually, it happens in people who are older. It's common in older individuals than the younger ones, okay? And why is, okay, like one might ask, why is the lens cloudy? It is cloudy because with aging or with an injury, there's some changes to the tissue that makes up the eye's lens. So what happens here, the proteins and the fibers in the lens, they begin to break down, causing the lens to be cloudy because of maybe an injury or because of your aging, okay? And then because of that, the light does not enter and then you won't see properly, right? So the treatment for this, in the beginning, spectacles may be used, but if it's too severe, they do what we call surgery. They do surgery where the lens is removed and they give you an artificial lens, or an artificial lens or synthetic lens is inserted. They give you another lens, not your own lens, your own one, because it's too cloudy, they remove it and they give you an artificial one. Okay. Now, last but not least, we're about to finish. We are going to look at binocular vision and stereoscopic vision, which is not really a big deal, but you need to know as well. It's very important. You won't be asked a lot of questions, I believe. I don't know now, but when I was a learner or a pupil, we were not asked so many things about the binocular vision. I hope it's still like that. Okay, what is binocular vision? Remember, bi means two in science. So binocular vision means to see with two eyes. So the image from the left eye is always slightly different to the image from the right eye. So the two images join in the brain, specifically the occipital part of the brain, the occipital lobes, which is not important. We are in matric, it's not grade 12 stuff. And then as a result, it leads to what we call stereoscopic vision, which allows you to judge the distance, the depth, and the size of an object. So stereoscopic vision is simply the ability to see in 3D, basically. It allows you or it enables you to walk down or up the stairs. Why? Because you are able to judge the distance, the depth and the size of the stairs. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to comment down below. Thank you. Bye.